Oh, Catherine, you can answer the phone. I heard your house burned down and you were taken to the hospital. I heard you got severe burns on your face. Is it okay to talk?
I was in the hospital when I got a call from my mother-in-law. The house I was living in with my husband's parents caught fire. I was supposed to be home alone, but my mother-in-law spoke with an almost gleeful tone.
Is the baby in your belly okay?
I was about to say I was out, so I'm fine, but my mother-in-law didn't wait for my reply.
Oh, maybe you can't reply. That makes sense. Your face must be really bad, huh?
My mother-in-law chuckled softly.
Even if the child is born safely, it's pitiable. Having a mother whose face looks like a melted monster. The child might be scared and dislike you.
My mother-in-law spoke with a smirk. I couldn't believe she called me out of genuine concern. Just as I was about to retort, she said something unthinkable.
It might be better for the baby in your belly not to be born. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks to you becoming a sacrifice, my long-held dream might come true. Even after you're discharged, don't come back home. A monster as my son's wife is a disgrace to the Smith family.
She forcefully hung up on me. Sacrifice? Long-held dream? I had a really bad feeling. If my intuition was right, my mother-in-law had committed a huge crime. I decided to stage a plan involving my family to uncover the cause of the fire and the mysterious words of my mother-in-law. My name is Catherine Smith. I'm 29 years old. I moved into my husband's family home upon marriage. I used to be a kindergarten teacher before marriage. My husband is a primary school teacher, 10 years older than me at 39. We met at a matchmaking party.
I look chubby as you can see, so I'm not really popular with women.
His smiling face seemed very kind, leaving a positive impression on me. Living together was my mother-in-law's wish, but I accepted it naturally. Many in my husband's family line are educators. Even his father and grandparents were middle school teachers. I had also obtained a license to teach elementary school, so I think I was favored by my in-laws. Moreover, my family runs a small inn, and both my mother and my mother-in-law had similar views. My younger brother, the heir, was always told to live with his spouse once married. Perhaps because I saw this, I assumed it's natural for the eldest son. My husband repeatedly asked,
Are you sure about this, Catherine?
But I didn't have any reservations. John, when I get married, I want to quit my job and help out at my family's place. It's an hour's drive from home, but there's no fixed work time. I can also show filial piety, and they said they would pay me properly.
Sounds good. You should show filial piety while your parents are still alive.
Thank you. I think I can properly do the housework, since I'll be leaving late and coming back early.
Don't worry, with your mother around, everything will be fine.
And so, it seemed our marital life was off to a peaceful start. However, once we began living together, my mother-in-law started giving detailed instructions about household chores. Normally, she's a gentle person, but when it comes to housework, she would become stern. And if I didn't do what was asked, she would hit my arm sharply with a thin bamboo ruler. I once resisted by saying, "Please stop," but my mother-in-law responded in a calm voice.
This is the Smith family way. I was also taught this way. This method has been passed down from previous generations. So, when I die, it will be your turn to continue this.
Seeing the blank look in my mother-in-law's eyes, I couldn't say anything further. She didn't necessarily make snide remarks or harass me. I found that even scarier. Every morning, I would wake up at 5 a.m., prepare breakfast, finish the laundry and cleaning, and then head to my family's place. In the evening, I'd finish work by 4 p.m. and start preparing dinner by 6 p.m. That was my daily routine.
Catherine, there's white dust in the corners of the stairs. Please make sure to wipe down even the corners of the stairs.
I'm sorry. I'll make sure to clean it on the weekend.
Oh, is that so? While you're at it, could you also clean the windows and weed the garden?
I'm sorry, but John and I have plans that day, so I might not be able to do everything at once.
How about cleaning the stairs now and weeding the garden first thing tomorrow morning? That way, on Sunday, all you have to do is clean the windows.
My mother-in-law always found some household chores for me to do. Waxing the floor, removing moss from the exterior walls, and weeding the driveway were physically demanding tasks. And while I was doing these chores, she'd just stand there and watch me closely. I would sometimes leave the house to help at my parents' place, and tried my best to accommodate her requests. But she expected perfection in everything, which really wore me down. My husband and I talked about our day every night before going to bed, but I couldn't bring myself to tell him about being hit with a ruler. He always looked out for me and would caution his mother if something happened. She never seemed to care, but knowing my husband was on my side brought me some relief.
Hey, Catherine is part of the family now. Have you thought about renovating the house?
Renovate, huh? What do you think, John?
I want to start a family soon, and that'll cost money. So I haven't thought much about the house right now.
But this house is so old. You probably don't like it, right, Catherine?
I'll follow whatever John decides. My mother-in-law often talked about renovating the house since the beginning of our marriage. Sometimes, when it was just the two of us,
You should mention it to John.
she'd ask me to talk to John about it. I never really understood where she was coming from. The house was located 1 block in from a main road, further set back from a smaller street. It was quiet, but had a somewhat dark and gloomy atmosphere. The house was old, with a parlor to the left of the entrance, a kitchen at the end of a corridor, and 2 traditional Japanese rooms opposite it. To the right of the entrance were steep stairs with a bathroom beneath them, and the second floor had a Japanese and a Western-style room. If only I had listened to my mother-in-law from the start. If we had plans to rebuild the house, I wonder if a different future would have awaited us. About a year and a half after starting our life together, I found out I was pregnant. My husband and in-laws were overjoyed, and we felt enveloped in happiness. Soon after the pregnancy was confirmed at the hospital, I began experiencing morning sickness.
I'll handle the housework until your morning sickness subsides, so just relax. Avoiding the stairs would be better for the baby, so you should use the parlor downstairs.
Thank you so much. I started spending more time on the first floor, but I felt tense knowing she was next door. I couldn't eat because of the severe morning sickness. And as I lost weight, my husband suggested going back to my parents' home. I stayed there for about 2 months and returned to my in-laws' house when my condition stabilized.
Are you okay to move now?
Yes. I'll try my best with the housework from now on.
Catherine, both your parents and John cherish you so much. You're so fortunate. As for me, my mother-in-law tormented me until the day she died. My husband just turned a blind eye.
When my mother-in-law began living in this house with her in-laws, John was 8 years old. It seems she was treated harshly by her mother-in-law, perhaps because she was the only one not working as a teacher in this house. As I approached the 7th month of my pregnancy, my belly grew bigger than it looked. Climbing and descending stairs became a nightmare. I was always cautious, but one day I slipped and fell down about 3 steps. There was a bit of bleeding, but the baby was fine, and we breathed a sigh of relief.
Hey, how about we consider moving before the baby comes? I think it's going to be hard raising a small child in this house.
I was surprised at John's proposal. He had never left this house since he became an adult. I thought he made up his mind for our coming baby and me as a father. I was very happy about how John felt. One weekend, after dinner, John brought up the topic.
Dad, Mom, we're thinking of renting a place nearby. Raising a child on the 2nd floor of this house will be challenging.
True, the stairs are steep. If you're living nearby, I don't mind if you two move out.
At that moment when the father-in-law agreed, the mother-in-law screamed out.
No, you can't leave. If you're moving, we all should move together.
Just as you care about our family, I want to prioritize my family with Catherine and the child.
Then, why not just rebuild this place? You're the only one I have. You're the only one I can rely on.
The mother-in-law was almost in a frenzy, causing a scene. The father-in-law held the mother-in-law back and told us to go upstairs. Even after we went to the 2nd floor, we could hear her heartbreaking cries. Eventually, it became quiet. Perhaps the father-in-law's persuasion worked, as the mother-in-law said nothing after that. We searched online for available properties and visited them during John's days off. By the time I entered my 9th month of pregnancy, we finally chose a slightly spacious apartment near our current home. It had an elevator, and there was enough space for the child to play around. Our move-in date was set for 2 weeks after the month changed. On that day, the father-in-law went fishing, and the mother-in-law planned a one-night hot spring trip with her sister. John was at work, and I was home with no medical checkup scheduled. It was almost noon, and everyone had left. I was thinking about what to have for lunch when my cell phone rang. It was a call from my younger brother.
I'm nearby on some errands. Can we meet up for a bit? There's something I want to discuss with you.
Huh, that's unusual. I'm free today. If you're treating me to lunch, I might be up for it.
Of course, I'll treat you. I'll be waiting at the diner near the station.
After hanging up, I hurriedly got ready. As I was slowly going down the stairs, I heard the front door open. Standing there was my husband, who should have been at work. His lips were pale blue.
Don't come over here. I'm feeling really cold. I left work early. There's a flu outbreak at the school right now.
Are you okay? I was about to meet my younger brother. Should I cancel?
No, you should go. Don't come to the 2nd floor when you get back, though.
Got it. Rest up. I'll buy some rehydration solution on my way back. Though worried, I left the house. As expected, my brother wanted to discuss marriage. He lives at our parents' place and works at an inn. He doesn't want to live with them while they're healthy. While we were brainstorming how to convince our mother, I received a call from the neighboring housewife.
Catherine, your house is on fire. Come home quickly.
Shocked, I jumped up and ran out of the diner. A crowd had already gathered around my house. My in-laws' home was engulfed in black smoke, with bright red flames reaching the sky. Help! My husband is still asleep on the second floor. I tried calling my husband repeatedly, but there was no response. Pushing through the crowd, I saw the second floor violently aflame. I just sat down, unable to speak, crying. Then, a firefighter approached me.
Excuse me, do you live in this house?
I quietly nodded.
We rescued a man from inside. He's been burned and is being taken to a nearby hospital. Was there anyone else in the house?
It was just my husband. I covered my face with my hands. My brother, who had followed me, drove me to the hospital. On the way, I tried calling my father-in-law and mother-in-law but couldn't get through. Sitting in the hospital waiting room, a man in a suit approached us.
Are you related to Mr. Smith? What were you doing when the fire broke out?
I received a call from my younger brother around noon saying he wanted to discuss something. We were together at a diner near the station. What was the cause of the fire? There have been small fires in the neighborhood lately. Could it possibly be arson?
We can't say for sure yet. The fire seems to have started from the bedroom in the back of the second floor, where your husband was sleeping.
My husband said he felt chilly and came home early from work. Could he have accidentally fallen asleep with the heater on?
Was it an electric heater? Once your husband regains consciousness, please let us know more.
As she said that, the police left in a hurry. Maybe because she was so shaken, her stomach started to tighten as I rubbed my stomach.
Catherine, are you all right?
As I looked up, my father-in-law was standing there.
I got a call from a neighbor and raced back in my car. I'm so glad you're safe.
It seemed like father-in-law had lost all his strength as he collapsed next to me.
I heard someone was taken away in an ambulance when I got to the house. When I checked my phone, there were so many missed calls from you. I thought it might have been an emergency call. I was so scared.
Father-in-law was crying and lowered his head. Jeff, the one taken to the hospital. It's John. John came home early because he wasn't feeling well, but I can't get in touch with Laura either. As I explained the situation to a startled father-in-law, my phone rang. It was a call from Laura, my mother-in-law.
Oh, Catherine, can you answer the phone? I heard from a neighbor that the house burned down, and someone was taken to the hospital. I heard there were severe burns on the face. Are you okay talking?
Mother-in-law's voice was unusually loud, as if she was in a noisy place. She sounded oddly cheerful.
Is the baby in your belly all right?
I was about to reply, I was out so I'm fine, when mother-in-law continued speaking.
Oh, can you not reply? Of course, with your face being so bad.
Laura chuckled softly. She seemed like a completely different person from the usually composed mother-in-law.
It would be so unfortunate for the baby to be born safely after all this. Your face is all messed up, looking like a monster. It must be so scary and repulsive.
Mother-in-law half-jokingly said this, and it didn't seem like she was genuinely concerned when she called. Just when I was about to retort at her words, she said something unimaginable.
Maybe it's better if the child in your womb doesn't get born. Thank you, Catherine. Thanks to you becoming the sacrifice. It seems like my long-standing dream might come true. Even after you're discharged, don't come back home. A monster as my son's wife. It's a disgrace to the Smith family.
Saying that, she unilaterally hung up the phone. Sacrifice. My long-standing dream? I had a very bad feeling. If my intuition was right, she might have committed a serious crime. Ever since I became pregnant, I would always take a nap for about 2 hours after lunch. If I had no plans that day, maybe I would have been the victim of the fire. Maybe my father-in-law thought the same. He sighed deeply. He must have heard mother-in-law's voice from the phone's receiver.
No, it can't be.
He got up and went outside to make a phone call. My stomach hurts. I felt dizzy trying to stand up to go to the bathroom. I could see my younger brother rushing over, but then I lost consciousness. I was in labor due to the intense stress. It was a slightly premature birth. It was a boy. Despite the fire, childbirth, and my husband's hospitalization, with the help of my parents, my brother, and John, I believe we managed through this period. My husband had severe burns from his right back to his shoulder and neck, and also fractures from falling down the stairs. He was hospitalized for about a month. Mother-in-law never came to the hospital during my husband's hospitalization. It seemed father-in-law had called Catherine at that time, but he didn't convey the details.
The second floor of our house is completely burnt. We're at the hospital now.
I heard Catherine sustained burns on her face. Given John's nature, he'll stay by your side during your hospitalization, won't he?
Yes, we're at the Sun City General Hospital. You come here now.
Seeing you in such a pitiable state would be unbearable for me. I won't visit. I plan to stay at my sister's house for a while. Let me know once you've decided where to temporarily stay.
Hey, do you intend to never come back?
There's nothing I can do even if I come back. If you don't have a house, you'll just spend money, right?
Mother-in-law never really visited the hospital or the burn house. It seems that my father-in-law wanted to believe her. He was hoping she'd come home on her own without telling her about the birth of their grandchild. After my husband's discharge, we decided to confront her with a staged play to clarify her mysterious words. No matter what her reasons were, I couldn't forgive her for saying, "It's better the child isn't born." I had decided in my heart to make her regret it for life. Shortly after my husband's discharge, the four of us met in a room of the inn run by my parents. When mother-in-law was led into the room by my mother, she seemed to smile faintly at the sight of my face. My mother left the room after serving tea, leaving the four of us.
Where's John?
John stepped out for a moment. But he'll be back soon. Mother-in-law chuckled.
My condolences for your loss.
She bowed. I, wrapped in bandages from my face to my right arm, didn't respond.
It's a shame about the baby, Catherine. But this might be for the best. You should recover at your parents' place.
Are you suggesting I divorce John?
It can't be helped. You no longer have a home, and the child didn't make it, and it must be hard for you to face the neighbors now.
No, I'm fine. My body works normally, and I can do household chores. Catherine raised her voice in frustration.
Get a clue. With that monstrous face, you're a disgrace to our family. For John's sake, get a divorce already.
Enough of this.
It's the truth. You feel the same way, don't you? She's not suitable for the Smith family. If your mother were alive, she'd say the same.
John looked shocked at mother-in-law's words. Is that so? Is it okay for us to get divorced?
Yes, it's for the best, for both John and you.
John, it seems we should get divorced. The room's sliding door opened in response to my words. Mother-in-law gasped at the sight of her son. Standing there was my husband, wrapped in bandages, just like me.
Yeah, with this hideous face. I feel guilty towards Catherine's parents. Tell you, Mom, am I a disgrace to the Smith family?
That's not true. What kind of joke is this? Only one person was supposed to have been taken to the hospital. I checked properly. Only one person was supposed to be sleeping in the bedroom.
John sat next to me. We both began to remove our bandages. My face was unscarred, but John still bore painful burn marks.
John, why? What happened? Why are you like this?
That day, my younger brother called me out, so I was away. Just before I left, John, feeling unwell, came home. The one who was taken to the hospital was John.
That's a lie. There were no shoes of John at the entrance.
I tidied them up in the shoe cabinet before I left. John's shoes are big, so I always tidy them up. Mother-in-law began to panic.
Sorry, it's my fault for forgetting to turn off the heater. My mistake was big. That's why I'm thinking of quitting my teaching job.
This was a decision John made while hospitalized. John, feeling extremely cold, had covered himself entirely with a blanket in his room. It was unclear whether he'd turned on the heater. Given his fever and drowsiness, it was unavoidable.
It's not your fault. I started the fire. I turned on the stove and left the room. So, don't quit your job. Your grandmother would scold me.
She turned pale and started shaking. So it was you who started the fire. You wanted to frame it as my fault. To think I was hated to this extent. Let's end our ties here.
You are from a wealthy family, graduated from a reputable university, and hold a teaching license. I despised you so much because you seemed like someone my mother-in-law would approve of. That's why, while it was a shame about the baby, I wanted you gone.
After blurting all this out, mother-in-law said in a faint voice.
Above all, we wanted that house gone. She's still there in that house, behind the sliding doors, from the end of the hallway, from the top of the stairs.
At this point, mother-in-law was trembling. It seems the former mother-in-law, even in death, still had such a hold over mother-in-law. In the now quiet room, a baby's cry could be heard from a distance.
Catherine, you.
Yes, it's mine and John's child. But I never intended to let the mother-in-law, who wished the child was never born, meet him. Hearing this, mother-in-law's expression vanished from her face.
Mom, I intend to divorce Catherine once and remarry her.
What do you mean?
Once we remarry, I plan to give up the Smith last name.
Mother-in-law let out an indescribable scream of agony. Perhaps decades of suppressed emotions, bound by fear, erupted as that voice. What was supposed to be a ploy brewed from hatred. The end result made me feel heartbroken and sad. Later, accompanied by her husband and son, mother-in-law turned herself in to the police. The crime of arson is severe. I have no intention of ever seeing mother-in-law again. But I hope that with the loss of that house and the bamboo ruler, some weight is lifted off mother-in-law's heart. The father-in-law regretted ignoring the feud between his wife and his own mother. So, he decided not to divorce and wait for mother-in-law's return. As promised, my husband resigned from his teaching position. With his mother admitting to arson, he believed he no longer had the right to teach. But still loving children, he's involved in education as a tutor. We divorced and remarried, changing our last name from Smith to my family's name. John wanted to sever ties with the Smith name that had tormented his mother. Given the circumstances, my own mother must have had her thoughts. My younger brother finally started his married life with just his wife. We sold the property where the in-laws' house was and moved to a new home with the father-in-law. We plan to buy a house near my parents' home when our son grows a bit older. We hope to move forward towards a happier future.